All right, we're live. 1 second. Shalom, Yahweh Bashrim Yashar Barakatham to the brothers that are watching online and here in class, to the sisters, Yahweh Shamar Alatham Bashem Mashai. This is the I.S.U.P.K law class. I am priest and officer Shagapan of the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General YAHANNA. And every day, there's always a live class no matter what part of the world you're from. And today is Wednesday. So everywhere across the earth, I.S.U.P.K will be teaching nothing but straight law class. And today, we're going to be talking about the law regarding leadership and going into leadership. And why the reason why George Floyd was murdered was because Black, Hispanic, and Native American people do not have leadership. More importantly, we don't have leadership according to the Most High's will. We decided to go against the Most High and disobey him, disobey his law, and we wanted to be a part of every other nation that we were ever attached to, whether it was Egypt or whether it was Persia, whether it was Greece and Rome. Here in America, we rather have the leadership of our oppressors than the leadership of the Most High God. So as we begin this class, I want everyone to go to Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 14. We're going to start there. All right. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 14. Whenever you got it out, go ahead and read.
Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 14. When thou art come unto the land which the Most High thy power giveth thee, and shalt possess it, and shalt dwell therein, and shalt say, I will set a king over me, like as all the nations that are about me.
Read it again.
When thou art come unto the land the Most High thy power giveth thee.
So it says when we come into the land, when we were to go into the land of Canaan, the land of milk and honey, which would be later called Israel, right? When we went into that land which the Lord God was going to give to us, who he promised to us, right? Keep going.
And shall possess it.
And when we were to go and take it over, like it said in Deuteronomy chapter 7, starting at the first verse, we're supposed to kill and exterminate and kick out all those African tribes that were there, all those Hamitic tribes that were there. and we were going to be the rulers of that land, like God promised our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Keep going.
And shall dwell therein.
And we were supposed to live there forever because that's our land. Keep going.
And shall say, I will set a king over me, like as all the nations that are about me.
However, we are a very stiff-necked and stubborn people. We are very rebellious. We have a riotous spirit, like Officer Shalayala went over yesterday in brotherhood class. And we did not want to have the Most High God be our leader. We did not want the Most High God to be our everything. We did not want to be special and set apart, Quadash, like in the Hebrew, which is holy in English. We did not want to be special. We did not want to be separate and separated and onto the Most High God and above every other nation. Because every other nation had kings over them. Every other nation had rulers over them. They had kings and princes and queens and monarchs and pharaohs and emperors and empresses and czars and khans. They had all these different names for rulers of their kings. And we wanted to be just like them. And the Most High is telling us, as we go over, that we weren't supposed to have kings. We're supposed to live by the word of the Lord, and the Lord be our ruler. And the Lord will give us people to judge over us or to help guide us in the right direction to make sure we stay serving the Most High God. That's why we had Levitical priests. That's why we ended up having judges to help judge us when we were not sure about something, when we were wrong about something, when we were trying to settle a dispute. That's why we had Levitical priests who were there to teach us the law and then also punish us for breaking the law according to the Old Testament. Keep going.
Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Most High thy power shall choose. One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother.
All right, let's read that again.
Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Most High thy power shall choose.
Now it's saying we will end up having a king, and we will set a king over us. We will have a king to rule us. However, who would choose our king?
The Most High thy power shall choose.
The Most High God was going to choose who was going to be our king and our ruler. Water. Let's make sure the brother wants water as well. We're going to make sure, we had to make sure that it was the Lord's choosing. The Lord decided who was going to be the ruler of Israel, since we wanted a king so badly, since we wanted to be like the other nations so badly, right? Keep going.
One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee.
Read that again.
One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee.
Does it say that we would have white people who are Edomites according to the Bible be our king?
Yeah.
Read it again now.
One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee.
Does it say that we would have Africans, Hamitic people be king over us?
One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee.
Does it say Arabs or Ishmaelites? Does it say Chinese and Japanese and Koreans, which are the Moabs, which are the Moabites and the Ammonites?
One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee.
It says one from among our brethren. If you did not know, if this is your first time watching a class by the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, let me tell you something right now. So-called Negroes scattered all over the world, specifically here in the Americas, so-called Hispanics scattered all over the world, specifically here in the Americas, so-called Native Americans scattered all over the world, specifically here in the Americas. We are all one nation. They're called Israelites, the 12 tribes of Israel. We are brothers and sisters and cousins and family members. We are all one race. We are not associated with the race of Africans who are Hamites. We're not associated with the race of white people, no matter if they're French, rednecks, Americans, Canadian American, German, Switzerland, Polish, from Sweden, from Portugal, the race of Edomites. We are not associated with them, right? We're not Arabs who are the Ishmaelites. We're not the Iranians who are the Persians. We're not the East Indians like Pakistanis and people from India and Bangladesh and Singapore who are the Elamites. We're not them. We're not these people. But we are, as so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, Israelites. And we are brothers to each other. And what kind of king are we supposed to have?
One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee.
A man from our race, a man from the tribe of Judah, a man from the tribe of Ephraim, a man from the tribe of Benjamin or Naphtali were to be the only people that could ever be king over us, according to Deuteronomy 17 and 15. It wasn't supposed to be someone from a different nation. We're getting a law right here for us to obey and follow from the Most High God, that only an Israelite, only a so-called black man, a so-called Hispanic man, a so-called Native American man is supposed to ever, if we were to ever have a king, be our king. It was never supposed to be a heathen, someone from a different race of people. Keep going.
Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee.
What does this law say right here?
Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee.
Should Barack Obama, an African whose father's from Kenya and acknowledges that he is African, who is a Hamite according to the Bible, should we have been so gun-ho and running to the polls and screaming vote or die to make Barack Obama our president and our ruler here in America?
Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee.
Should we have been like Kanye West and be allowed to be called smart cookies from a widely known racist called Donald Trump, who's an Edomite, a white person whose sole purpose and platform was to make America great again for white people? Were we supposed to be at the polls supporting Kanye West, supporting Abadia, the doctor that's in charge of the Department of Ben Carson? Should we be supporting Ben Carson's decision and running behind him to vote for Donald Trump?
Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee.
Should we be having Asians or Arabs be the store owners and tell us how much we should pay for items at a store, or tell us that we can and cannot buy something, or that we can or cannot come into a place of business?
Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee.
And why were we not supposed to set an Edomite, an Hamite, an Ishmaelite, an Elamite, a Japhite, a Moabite, an Ammonite, an Amalekite, all these type of different races of people biblically known by their names in the Bible? Were we supposed to set them over us?
Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother.
White people are not our brothers. African people are not our brothers. Asian people are not our brothers. Arabs are not our brothers. Although right now people are protesting and joining hand in hand over the death of George Floyd, over the death of Breonna Taylor, over the death and memory of Trayvon Martin and Tamir Rice and Philando Castile, and all the abducted and missing Native American women who end up being found murdered and raped. Are we supposed to be marching hand in hand with our oppressors? Are we supposed to be begging our oppressors for help and change and to stop murdering us? The reason why we're doing that is because of what?
Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother.
The reason why we're protesting all over America and all over the world as Black, Hispanic, and Native American people is because we disobeyed this law and this instruction that the Most High God gave us. We decided to put strangers over us. We decided to vote for Barack Obama. We decided to vote for Donald Trump. We decided to vote for Bill Clinton because he got some dome in the Oval Office and he smoked a little bit of weed and played the saxophone. We decided to vote for Arnold Schwarzenegger to be the governor of California because he said, "Come with me if you want to live." We did all these things. But is Barack Obama our brother? Is Donald Trump our brother? Is Arnold Schwarzenegger our brother? Is Bill Clinton our brother? These are not our brothers, and we decided to be. And because we are stiff-necked, because we are stubborn, because we are disobedient, because we have such a riotous and rebellious spirit, instead of obeying God, we disobey God and we put strangers over us. We wanted to be under the foot of the white man in America. We wanted to please master so much so we can be considered a house nigga, because we didn't want to be a field nigga. Our men want to marry white women because they love white men and they want what white men have, which is white women and power and control. Our women want to be with white men because when they look at white women, they see that she has a white husband who's strong, supports her, takes care of her, dominates the world. So a black woman like Candace Owens, if I'm not mistaken, wants a white boyfriend, wants a white husband, wants to support and stand behind white ideals and beliefs. She wants stuff like that. Our Black, Hispanic, and Native American women want stuff like that. Not the majority, not all of them, but the great majority. And the way you tell is by simply just turning on the television. Who do Black, Hispanic, and Native American women try their hardest to be like? All on television, you see Black, Hispanic, and Native American women with blonde hair, having contacts of green eyes and blue eyes and hazel eyes, right? Bleaching their skin to be lighter, like Little Kim. What do we, when we turn on the TV, what do we see our men like? Our Black, Hispanic, and Native American men. Abadia? They want to be homosexuals, just like the white man who's a natural homosexual. They want to dye and bleach their skin too, to be like white people, like Sammy Sosa. Perfect example. Right. They want to have blue eyes and green eyes and hazel eyes so they get contacts. They want their children to be as light as possible, so they marry a white man or a white woman, so that way their children can look whiter, have straighter hair, or what they call the good hair. We set strangers to rule over us. And these strangers, they're not our brother. They're not from the same race of people that we are. They're not Israelites. They're not niggas. They're not spics. They're not red savages like our oppressors call us. Keep going.
But he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that he should multiply horses. For as much as the Most High hath said unto you, ye shall henceforth return no more that way.
Read it again.
But he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that he should multiply horses. For as much as the Most High hath said unto you, ye shall henceforth return no more that way.
Let's read that one more time.
But he shall not multiply horses to himself.
Stop. Now we're going to learn what our king should conduct himself as, how he should be, how he should move, how he should treat how he should treat his people, how an Israelite king is supposed to treat his Israelite subjects, his brothers, his sisters, living in the ghetto, living in poverty, living in a nice comfortable mansion, owning a car, not owning a car. This is how an Israelite king is supposed to rule over his people. If we were to have a king, which the Lord would choose for us from among our brothers. Keep going. Sorry, read it again.
But he shall not multiply horses to himself.
Is this really saying that this king can't have more than one horse? Is it saying you know after 5 horses stop? Is it saying this? Is this what it's saying? What is it saying here?
It's like, if I may, I just believe that it's saying that he shouldn't take advantage of the people and just get over because he has power and just forget about the people and just take everything and greed.
Exactly. He should not be greedy. He should not have, his focus should not just be on accumulating all types of precious items and commodities and satisfying his lust, his greed. Keep going.
Nor cause the people to return to Egypt.
Or what?
Nor cause the people to return to Egypt.
What does this mean? Go ahead.
If I may, I believe he's telling them that he don't want the person in charge to put you in position to put you back into slavery, put you back oppressed underneath people.
Correct. Our king, whoever it was supposed to be, will not cause our people to return back to our enslavement when we were being ruled by other nations of people. How was our life when we lived in Egypt? Well, if you don't know, let's take a trip down memory lane. Let's go to Exodus chapter 1. No, we're going to start up on verse 8.
Exodus what?
1
verse 1 and chapter 1 verse 8.
Exodus chapter 1 verse 8. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph.
So Joseph was one of the brothers of it, was one of the sons of Israel, who was sold by his brothers in enslavement. He was then brought into Egypt, sold to Egypt to Egyptians. He was accused of trying to rape the Pharaoh's. Was it Pharaoh? It wasn't Pharaoh's wife. It was
his chief guard.
His chief guard's wife, Tawara Badia. He was accused of trying to rape. He was accused by this African woman of trying to rape her, and her husband was a very high-ranking person in the Pharaoh's government. He was a chief guard, correct?
Right. He was a warden of the prison.
He was a warden, as Abadia is saying, he was a warden of the prison that was there. Go ahead, Abadia.
The full story. Joseph was sold to this cat, who was a rich cat in Egypt. He was the warden of Pharaoh's prison. Joseph gained notoriety.
I have to speak up because the mic is over here.
Yeah. Joseph basically gained notoriety and became the head of his God's house, his garden. All his servants, the butlers, had to go through Joseph. His wife ended up feeling him, tried to come on to Joseph. Joseph denied her, but she grabbed onto his pants or whatever, and said, and lied to her husband, which is something you can look up. A lot of what white women did to us back in the day. You don't sleep with me, I'm just going to sleep away to my husband. Lied to her husband, oh, Joseph tried to rape me, and then he ended up in the jail.
Yes. So this African woman lied on Joseph, said that he tried to rape her, and Joseph was end up thrown into prison. I believe, what, for 3 years? 7 years? So then Joseph ended up being able to interpret visions and dreams, and he ended up being useful to Pharaoh and ended up saving Pharaoh's kingdom by being able to store food and save food when a plague and a famine hit Egypt.
Right.
Right? So Joseph accumulated all this power under Pharaoh and became second of all over Egypt. He was the second most powerful man in this African kingdom, right? And he brought his family over. His family lived in a certain part of Egypt, and they weren't bothered by the Africans. However, read it again.
Now there arose a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph.
However, there came a point in time where there was a new Pharaoh over Egypt who didn't know the deeds of Joseph, who didn't care about who Joseph was, who didn't care about the old arrangements that the pharaohs before him had. He didn't care. This African didn't care. Keep going.
And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we.
And this African king, this Pharaoh, told the other Egyptians, the other Africans, the other Hamites, listen, we gotta look out. We gotta be careful because of these Israelites. There's a ton of them all over Egypt. They're strong, they're mightier, they have a good amount of wealth, they have a good amount of land, they have a good amount of cattle, they have great, huge families. Keep going.
Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land.
So, like your brother, going forward, try to remember to always say the verse you're on. All right. So let's read it again.
Exodus chapter 1 verse 10. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply.
Stop. So the Pharaoh, this disgusting Hamite, this African, decided to tell his people, let's come up with some type of scheme, some type of plan, so that way we can know how to deal with these Israelites who are strong, who are wealthy, who are mighty, lest they keep multiplying. Keep going.
And it come to pass that when there falleth out any war,
because if there ends up being a war between us and another nation of people, keep going,
they join also unto our enemies.
They might join these Israelites that we don't have control over, that we're not ruling over, that we don't have power over. They might end up fighting with our enemies. They might end up joining our enemies. They might end up making deals with our enemies. Keep going.
And fight against us.
And what?
And fight against us.
And they might end up joining our enemies to cause war and fight with us. Keep going.
And so get them up out of the land.
So this is what we need to do. We need to come up with a plan to get them out of the land of Goshen. What we need to do is come up with a plan to take away the land that they live on. Keep going.
Exodus 1st chapter verse 11. Therefore they did set over them taskmakers to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses.
And what they did was they put rulers over us. They put slave masters, taskmasters, overseers, which are modern day police officers and correctional guards and managers and CEOs and presidents. They put these people over us to control us, it says to afflict them with our burdens, to make everything that we did difficult, to tell us to go pick cotton, to tell us to go cut down sugarcane, to tell us to go cut down tobacco and cultivate rice and dig and mine for gold and silver and emeralds and diamonds and dig for coal and use our babies for alligator bait so that way they can make alligator shoes and alligator purses and alligator hats. This is what they did. Yes? Class is live. Now let's go back to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 16.
Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 16. So,
yep.
But he shall not multiply horses to himself.
And our king, who would rightfully rule over us, he wouldn't be greedy. Keep going.
Nor cause the people to return to Egypt.
And our king who would rule over us would not cause us to return to Egypt. And we just learned by reading Exodus chapter 1, right? Starting at verse 8, I believe, how we were treated in Egypt, how the Egyptians treated us. So our king wouldn't put us back into a position where we would be less than another race of people. Our king who would rule over us, who would guide us, lead us, provide wisdom and judgment and rulership and leadership over us, he would not cause us to be slaves again. He would not want us to work for a white person, to work for an African, to work for an Asian, to work for an Arab. Our king, who the Lord would choose from among our own people, will not cause us to be second-class citizens to no race on the face of the earth. Keep going.
For to the end that he should multiply horses.
Again, he would not cause us to be slaves. That way he can solely benefit. However, the reason why George Floyd died is because our leaders have led us back to Egypt. And they have gained wealth and power and riches by bringing us back to Egypt. Reverend Al Sharpton is a multi-millionaire because he allowed us and guided us back to slavery, back to be under the rulership of America.
And according to Tekashi 6ix9ine, snitching pays.
And according to Tekashi 6ix9ine, snitching pays. Not being a brother to your brother and getting your brother in trouble by law enforcement and by the authorities, so that way, yes?
I'll talk about Sharp because you know he's important.
I know.
Yeah, I just want to
apparently pays by being a snitch like Judas was to Christ.
Right.
He liked the money more than his own brother, Christ.
Right.
And just like Al Sharpton, just like Tekashi 6ix9ine, both are snitches. Right. Both told on their people. Both got information on their people to give to the authorities, to give to our oppressors, to give to the devils, to further destroy Black, Hispanic, and Native American people. They have multiplied horses onto themselves by leading us to slavery, by leading us and making us second-class citizens to the same races of people who have tried to destroy us time and time again. Keep going.
For as much as the Most High hath said unto you, ye shall henceforth return no more that way.
But a good king, the king that the Lord would choose, would not lead us into slavery. A good king that the Lord chooses from amongst our people would not be like Jesse Jackson, would not be like Dr. Martin Luther King, who wanted us to join hand in hand with white people and with homosexuals, and who wanted to be able to sleep with white women. He would not lead us into a burning house and destroy everything that we build up just so that way we can sit from a white water fountain and sit on a white toilet while we strain and try to get rid of our constipation. He would not do that. Abadia?
I was going to say, going into the whole make us slaves.
Make sure you speak louder.
Salakia. I was going to say, going into the whole make us slaves thing. He's the man who literally said, let's mop the floors like Picasso painted. So he's like, be the best slave you can possibly be.
This is what false leaders among the Black, Hispanic, and Native American community have done. They have led us back into Egypt. These are leaders, rulers that the Lord did not choose. The Lord did not choose Martin Luther King. The Lord did not choose Malcolm X. The Lord did not choose Tekashi 6ix9ine or Alex Rodriguez or Jamie Foxx or Jay-Z or T.I. King of Atlanta. The Lord did not choose any of them. The Lord did not choose Ben Carson. The Lord did not choose Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The Lord did not choose Derek Jeter. The Lord did not choose LeBron James. The Lord did not choose any of these people. However, the Lord did choose Commanding General YAHANNA.
That's right.
Because Commanding General YAHANNA, since he has taken over the mantle and as leader of all Israel, has done nothing but sacrifice everything to make sure that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans rule the earth again. Follow after Christ again. Return and fear and love God once again. That's the leadership that we need. That's the leadership that Moses provided. That's the leadership that Ezekiel provided. That's the leadership that Isaiah provided. That's the leadership that Yahawashi, who you call Jesus, provided to his people.
Right.
Keep going.
Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 17. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away. Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold.
Now let's read that again.
Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away.
Now we're saying that our king would not multiply wives to himself for fear of they turning his heart, his love, his mind, his passion, the point of his existence away from God.
Right.
For example, King Solomon. King Solomon was just like his father, a man after his own heart. He loved the Lord, did the Lord's will every single day. But once King Solomon multiplied wives to himself, he ended up multiplying heathen women to himself like he wasn't supposed to. As he grew older, these heathen women, these white women, these African women, these Asian women, these Arab women, ending up getting Solomon at his own old age to worship and serve false gods and turn his back against the Lord. This is why it's saying not to multiply wives to yourself, because it can lead you to turn your back to the Lord. A good king would not let him multiplying wives to himself turn him away from serving the Lord. However, Martin Luther King loved white women. He loved white whores. And it was because of his love for white women and white whores that he led his people into a burning house.
Right.
He destroyed the economy of black and Hispanic people for his love of white whores. Malcolm X may allow his people to join with white people at the end, right? Because he loved white people. He secretly and sincerely loved white people. Because if he did not love white people, he would have stuck to his guns and said that black people should separate and stay separate from white people. Keep going.
Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold.
Again?
Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold.
And our king that will be chosen by the Lord would not care about having a huge amount of wealth. Would not care about walking around with 5-finger rings and gold chains and ice grills. He would not care about how many billions or millions he has in his bank account. He would be like Christ, who was a poor man, who didn't worry about having gold or silver or money. He didn't worry about having a bank account. He didn't stress about him having a negative balance in his Chase JP Morgan account or his Wells Fargo account. Christ did what he did with almost no money, doing the work of the Lord, everything being provided for him because he did the work of the Lord.
Right.
Our kings, our rulers, would not be like Jay-Z,
Right.
who sold crack and drugs and destroyed black and Hispanic households for decades before he gets to the position he's in now. He would not be like Puff Daddy, who abused and abused his recording artists to amass huge amounts of wealth. He would not be like these leaders who all they want at the end of the day is more power, more wealth, more recognition, and secretly and sincerely don't have the best interest for Black, Hispanic, or Native American people in their minds. Keep going.
Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 18. And it shall be, when he sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this law in a book out of that which is before the priests, the Levites.
And what our king would do is that he would sit upon it on the throne that the Lord gave him, which he is grateful for, and he will write a copy of the book of the law. He will write a copy of the Bible for himself, which is what the Levites would go around teaching. In his possession at all times would be the law of Moses, the stories of Ezekiel, of Isaiah, of Matthew and Paul and Peter, and the books of Revelations. This is what our king would have at his disposal, within his arm's reach, carry it underneath his underarm. Just like you guys, just like you drug dealers like to wear those Gucci fanny packs around your chest because you got your drugs in there, you got your money in there, you got your gun in there. Well, our king, the one that the Lord would choose, would have a bag, a satchel, whatever you want to call it, on his chest, on his back, around his waist, on and hanging off his arm, carrying in his hand the book of the law, the Bible, because he would be able to reference it at any given moment when he needs to judge, when he needs to lead, when he needs to make a decision. He would refer and consult back to the book of God. Keep going.
Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 19. And it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Most High his power, to keep all the words of this law and these statutes, to do them.
Let's keep read that again.
And it shall be with him.
What?
And it shall be with him.
Like I just said, this book of the law will be with him at all times. You know how people sleep with a gat under the pillow, or money under the mattress, or a bat by the nightstand in case an intruder comes in? Well, our king would sleep with the Bible on his nightstand, would sleep with the Bible underneath his pillow. His mattress would be stuffed with pages from the Bible. Keep going.
And he shall read therein all the days of his life.
And he will constantly read this book of the law, this book of God, for the rest of his life, every single day. Keep going.
That he may learn to fear.
The what?
That he may learn to fear.
Because by reading this Bible, he will learn all the mistakes that his ancestors made. He will learn to fear the Most High God. Because if he doesn't fear the Most High God, he might end up committing sin like Solomon or like Saul. He might end up committing sin like the sons of Solomon who were wicked. He might end up committing sin like the sons of Samuel who he made judges and were wicked. This king would read this book every single day and learn to fear the Lord. So that way he can always have the Lord's blessing. Keep going.
That he may learn to fear the Most High his power, to keep all the words of this law and these statutes.
So that way he would guarantee and ensure that he will keep all the laws contained in this book. He would contain all, it would ensure that he always obeys the statutes in this book. He would always obey and keep all the commandments that are laid out in all these pages from his ancestors. Keep going.
And to do them.
And to what?
And to do them.
And not only by just learning them and keeping them, but he would do them. He would learn how to be a righteous leader, a righteous king. He will learn to have brotherhood and love his people according to the Bible. Hold that. let's go to the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verse 13. Because here in Deuteronomy 17 and 19, it says that he would learn, fear the Lord, and keep all the words of the law, and to do them, which sounds familiar. Because every man, woman, and child, they have one, who is black, Hispanic, or Native American, has one duty in life, has one sole purpose in life. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. Read it when you got it out.
Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter.
So let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Let's find out what is the most important thing every single man, woman, and child who is black, Hispanic, or Native American is supposed to do. Keep going up.
Fear God.
What?
Fear God.
Let's go back. Hold that. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 17 and 19.
Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 19.
And skip down to where it says that he may learn.
That he may learn to fear the Most High thy power.
Go back to Ecclesiastes. What does it say?
Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God.
It says to fear God as the conclusion of the whole matter in Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. And in Deuteronomy 17 and 19, it says that he may learn to fear the Lord his God. Keep reading Ecclesiastes.
Fear God and keep his commandments.
And what?
And keep his commandments.
And what?
And keep his commandments.
When we go back to Deuteronomy 17 and 19, it says to keep all the words of this law and these statutes, to do them. And in Ecclesiastes it says, and keep his commandments. So every single man, woman, and child is supposed to fear God and keep the Lord's commandments. Right. Do the Lord's commandments. And our King, who the Lord will choose from among our people, from among blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, would know that to be a righteous king, to be a real leader of black, Hispanic, and Native American people, he is supposed to do two things: fear God and keep his laws, statutes, and commandments. That is what our righteous king, who the Lord would choose from among our people, would do. Africans don't fear the Lord. Right. Because if they feared the Lord, they wouldn't treat the Lord's children as they do. Asians don't fear God. Because if they did fear God, not one Asian man or woman will put a finger on a black woman in an Asian nail salon or an Asian hair salon. If white people feared God, George Floyd would not have had a knee pressed against his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Right. He would not have been murdered by a white police officer. Right. Trayvon Martin would not have been gunned down by a white man. Right. Tamir Rice, playing with a toy gun, would not have been shot down by white police officers. Right. Philando Castile would not have been gunned down in his vehicle with his child behind him. Akil Gurley would not be gunned down or shot down going up or down his apartment building staircase by an Asian and white police officer. It would not have happened. If white people feared God, if Africans feared God, if Asians feared God, if Arabs feared God, they would not sell cigarettes, Lucy's, and pork to black, Hispanic, and Native American people. Right. Since they're descendants of Abraham so much, they should know that you're not supposed to be touching pork, selling pork, eating pork. Right. If these nations, these different races of people feared God, they would not cause the destruction or further the destruction of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And let's take it a step further. If black, Hispanic, and Native American people feared God, they would not sell drugs to their people. They would not make their women whores. They would not promote their sons to be homosexuals and sodomites. They would not lead their people to be slaves to white people. They would not want their people to be killed by their oppressors. If our people really feared God, they will keep his commandments. If our people really feared God, we wouldn't be dying in America. We wouldn't have the highest rate of AIDS in America. We wouldn't be the #1 race to fill these prisons in America. We wouldn't be the ones dying from diabetes and high blood pressure and high cholesterol and having plaque in our arteries if we really feared God. Let's go back to Deuteronomy. Let's go to verse 20.
Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 20. That his heart be not lifted up above his brethren, and that he turn not aside from the commandment to do right, to do the right hand or to the left hand, to the end that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel.
Let's read that again.
That his heart be not lifted up above his brethren.
What?
That his heart be not lifted up above his brethren.
A righteous black, Hispanic, or Native American man who the Lord will make king over other black, Hispanic, and Native American man, he would not think of himself as better than the next black, Hispanic, and Native American man. I should not think of myself better than Abadia. Abadia should not think himself better than you, Brother Brandon. You should not think of yourself better as the man out there in the streets right now smoking crack, selling drugs.
Right.
We're supposed to love our brothers, love our sisters, love our people. A righteous king, his whole purpose would be how he can serve his people better, how he can get his people to serve the Lord better, what he can do to solve his people's problems. Not thinking, stay away from me, you're disgusting. You smell like crap. Your lips are all purple and your skin is all scabbed up for you scratching yourself because you smoke crack and shoot heroin up in your veins. You disgust me. This is not what a black, Hispanic, or Native American king would do. However, our black, Hispanic, and Native American Christian pastors think this.
Right.
Our Catholic priests think this.
Right.
Our Muslim imams think this. Our Ben Carsons think this. Our politicians think this. They think they are better than the man that's not doing as good as them. You want to say something about it?
I was going to say politicians.
Most High in Christ. Keep reading.
And that he turn not aside from the commandment to do to the right hand or to the left.
And this king, who the Lord would choose amongst black, Hispanic, and Native American people, he would not turn aside from doing the laws, statutes, and commandments of God, either on the right side or on the left side. He would not bend the rules. He would not break the laws of God for no one, for anyone. He will stick to his guns and always do the Lord's will. Keep going.
To the end that he may prolong his days in his kingdom.
Because by doing so, he would guarantee his rulership, his righteous rulership in the kingdom that the Lord gives him. Keep going up.
He and his children.
And his what?
And his children.
And his children will end up ruling after him. And their children. And their children. Because he would raise them to fear God and do and keep his commandments. And they would follow the example that their father laid out for them. Keep going.
In the midst of Israel.
So let's drop that and let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 8. So here we're learning about the law that God gave us in regards to our rulership, to our leaders. Who would be allowed to lead us? Who should lead us? From what we just read, Brandon or Abadia, who, if anyone, was to lead us? Brandon?
Someone that the Most High chose to be king over us, that would be our brother. He wouldn't be from a stranger. He wouldn't be nobody that's not of Israel.
Correct. The Lord would choose a king. We wouldn't choose a king. The Lord would choose a ruler. We would not choose a ruler. The Lord will tell us who we should follow and obey. We would not decide who we want to follow and obey. And the Lord would choose someone from amongst our own people, from amongst the races of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Not us picking an African, or us picking a white person, or us picking an Asian or Arab. None of that would happen. We would not be choosing a heathen, a person from a different race to be our leaders or our rulers or our king. So let's read 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 1.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 1. And it came to pass, when Samuel was old, that he made his sons judges over Israel.
So Samuel was not a king. However, Samuel was a prophet. Samuel was a leader. Samuel was a judge. Samuel was given authority to guide and lead his people by the Lord. Just like Moses was. Just like Ezekiel was. Just like Isaiah was. Just like Jeremiah and Obadiah. Samuel was given this power and this authority because the Lord chose him. Because the Lord saw fit that Samuel would be the right person to do the Lord's will. And Samuel, eventually, as all men do, we get older. With our age, sometimes, we may think slowly. We may not be as sharp as before. We start to lose some of those things that made us great, that the Lord gave us. Right? And Samuel had sons who were judges over Israel, who judged Israel, who made decisions, who settled disputes between black and Hispanic people and Native American people. Keep going.
Now 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 2. Now the name of the firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second, Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba. And
we're learning the names of his two sons, Joel and Abiah, who were judges over Beersheba. They were judges. They helped make decisions and rule and lead and guide the people of Israel. Right. Keep going.
And his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre, and took bribes and perverted judgment.
Read it again.
And his sons walked not in his way.
What does it say?
And his sons walked not in his way.
Samuel's sons did not do what Samuel did. Samuel's sons did not follow after the footsteps of Samuel. More importantly, Samuel's sons did not do the will of God. Samuel's sons did not fear God. Samuel's sons did not obey and keep the Lord's laws, statutes, and commandments, like we learned about how we should do in Deuteronomy chapter 17. His sons were made rulers and leaders who didn't care about their people, who multiplied horses to themselves, who would lead their people to return to Egypt, who would allow multiple wives to turn their back against God, who allowed silver and gold to turn their backs against the Lord. Keep going. But turned
aside after lucre.
What's lucre? Abadia?
Lucre.
Lucre. What's lucre?
Lucre is like something that money basically.
Lucre is money.
Like
funds, shillings, shekels, pesos, dineros. Yes?
That's where you get the word lucrative.
Okay. So they turn themselves after money. Keep going.
And took bribes.
And took what?
And took bribes.
So when you don't want to do 10 years in jail for racketeering like Tekashi 6ix9ine, you make deals. You'll snitch. You'll give up information. You'll pay the judge or pay the prosecutor or pay the officer to look the other way when you're selling drugs or pay the officer to make sure you don't get arrested when buying some drugs. Keep going.
And perverted judgment.
And because of this, because of their love for money, because of their lust for money, because they cared about how much gold chains they had on their neck, how many rings they could fit on each finger, because they cared about how many mansions they had, because they cared about having the Lamborghinis of horses and the Murcielagos of donkeys,
Right.
because they wanted to have the nicest haircuts and look fresh and get all the women, they took bribes from people,
Right.
from wicked people, because wicked people give bribes, and they perverted judgment. So when they were supposed to judge between who was right and wrong, they sided and made the judgment to go with the person who was wrong, and the person who was right the entire time lost, suffered, because they took bribes. They like money more than obeying God and fearing God. Yes?
It's like, if I may, it sound like the court system right now.
Exactly. Sounds like the court system right now. When you can, like Kanye West said, right? You can buy your way out of prison. You can buy your way out of jail, but you can't buy freedom. Just like what Kanye says. You can pay so that way you don't go to jail and suffer and rot and get tortured and have to eat 3 meals a day when they tell you to eat 3 meals a day. When you have to wake up and go to sleep when they tell you to go to sleep and wake up. When the lights go off, the lights go off. When lights come on, the lights come on. When your child wants to come visit you, you got an hour, and that's it. His sons perverted judgment. They were poor leaders, just like Malcolm X was a poor leader, just like Martin Luther King is a poor leader, just like Jesse Jackson and Louis Farrakhan is a poor leader, like Ben Carson is a poor leader, like Adam Clayton Powell and his father, poor leaders. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 4. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Samuel unto Ramah.
So at this point, the elders of Israel came to speak with Solomon. They wanted to have a council, a meeting. Sorry, not Solomon, Samuel. They wanted to have a council with Samuel. Keep going.
And said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations.
Let's read that again. Because we just learned in Deuteronomy 17 who would be our leaders. Who would decide who our leaders would be? Read it again.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 5. And said unto him, Behold, thou art old.
So all the elders of Israel, who are also old, who are also leaders of Israel, they're telling Samuel, look, listen, Samuel, you're old. You're getting up there in age. You're going to die soon. And when you die, who's going to lead us? Who's going to rule over us? Who's going to make good decisions for us? Keep going.
And thy sons walk not in thy ways.
Because your sons, they're good for nothing. They don't do what you do. They don't follow what you taught them since they were young. They don't fear God. They don't obey God. They don't keep his law, statutes, and commandments. They love money. They love having the most gold and silver. They take bribes and make deals underneath the table.
Right.
They make wicked decisions when they're supposed to make righteous decisions. Keep going.
Now make us a king.
What?
Now make us a king.
What did they say?
Now make us a king.
What did they want?
A king.
We just learned in Deuteronomy chapter 17 that the Lord would decide who would be our king.
Right.
Here, these elders of Israel should know that the Lord is the only one that will decide who would be king over his people. However, these Israelites who are elders, who are leaders as well, who should be reading this Bible, who should be going to bed with the Bible underneath their pillow, waking up with the Bible in their hand, who should be going around Jerusalem and Bethlehem and the land of Goshen and Gilead, and Jordan. They should be reading this Bible and using it to make the best decisions for their people. However, they must have been skipping over Deuteronomy chapter 17. Because what are they asking for?
Now make us a king.
They want a king. What race of people has kings? Has Israel, before this moment, ever had a king rule over them? You sure? No sign crying. Just checking. Trying to get your brother in. He was firm, you know. We never had a king before this moment.
Right.
Keep going.
Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations.
All the other nations had kings who judged them and ruled over them. The Africans had pharaohs. The Asians had emperors. The Asians had khans. The white people, the Edomites, they had kings and tsars. Israel, we had no king. We had no emperor. We had no Caesar. We had no czar. We had no khan. We had no emperors. We damn sure didn't have no queens or empress or female rulers of that ranking of a queen. We didn't have none of that. However, we decided that that's what we wanted. We wanted a king to rule over us because we wanted to be like all those other nations. Here's a perfect example where we decided that we didn't want to be special and set apart to the Lord. Here's where we're deciding that we no longer want to be above white people. We no longer want to be above Africans. We no longer want to be above Asians and Arabs and Aborigines and the cannibals out there in New Zealand and Samoans. We didn't want to. We wanted to be like them. We didn't want to be special anymore. So we wanted a king like these other nations had. Keep reading.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 6. But the thing displeased Samuel.
What did it do?
It displeased Samuel.
It made Samuel displeased. Why would it do that? Why would Samuel be displeased? Yes?
If I may, because Samuel was a man of the Most High. He knew that. He knew the rules. He knew Most High would be the one to appoint a king, and that wasn't our way anyway.
That's correct. Samuel's displeased because, one, his people are sinning. They're asking for a king to be like these other nations. His children, his own two sons who he raised in the footsteps of following the Lord, they're sinning. He's displeased. He's unhappy. He is sad. He's disappointed. Keep going.
When they said, give us a king to judge us.
And he's disappointed because the people know that they shouldn't be asking for a king. The people know that if we were to have a king, the Lord will decide. Right. But they're begging Samuel to give them a king. Right. They're telling Samuel to give them a king. They're telling Samuel, you're going to die soon. We need a king. We want a king. Someone who's going to take your place and rule over us. Keep going.
And Samuel prayed unto the Most High.
And what does a righteous ruler do? Read it again.
And Samuel prayed unto the Most High.
And Samuel prayed to the Lord. because he needed help. Because he knew, the Lord already knew what his people were doing. So Samuel, being the wise leader that he is, prayed to the Lord. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 7. And the Most High said unto Samuel, hearken unto the voice of the people and all that they say unto thee. For they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them.
Let's read this again. Because as Samuel prayed to the Lord spoke to him and answered his prayers.
Yeah.
Keep going.
And the Most High said unto Samuel, hearken unto the voice of the people and all they say unto thee.
And the Lord told Samuel, listen, Samuel, just do what the people say. Listen to what they're saying. They're asking for a king, so give them a king. They're asking for someone to rule over them and judge them, so give them someone to rule over and judge them. They're asking to be like these stinking, disgusting heathens, these stinking and disgusting and detestable and gross nations. They're asking to be like white people. They're asking to be like Africans. They're asking to be like Asians and Arabs. You know what? Then treat them like such. Treat them like so. Treat them like all these disgusting races of people. Treat them like they're not special. Treat them like they're not set apart. Bring them down so they're no longer above all the other races of people. Listen to them. Give them what they want. Keep going.
For they have not rejected thee.
Because they're not rejecting you. They don't hate you. They don't have a problem with you. Keep going.
But they have rejected me.
But they reject me, their God. They no longer fear me, their God. They no longer respect me, their God. They no longer obey my laws, obey my statutes, obey my commandments anymore. And they're supposed to. Don't worry about it. Give them what they want. They love you, and they no longer love me. Keep going.
That I should not reign over them.
And they don't think that I am good enough to rule over them. They don't think that I am good enough to be their king, to be their God. They don't think I'm the one that is fit to lead them. After I freed them from captivity in Egypt, after I put 7 plagues over all of Egypt, after I fed them in the wilderness for 40 years, fed them manna from the sky, after I had my angels guide them with a burning wheel of fire in the night sky and with a white cloud during the day, they don't think I'm good enough to be their king.
Right.
So you know what, Samuel? They love you. Give them what they want. I know you love me because you obey me.
Right.
At least you had the decency and you knew better to come and pray to me about what's going on. Because that's why I chose you. Because you obey me and you fear me. That's why I speak to you and you only, because you obey me and fear me. So thank you for praying to me. Thank you for doing what a man is supposed to do. Fear God and keep his commandments. His whole duty in life. And that is what a king is supposed to do. A king, when they need to make a decision, they don't turn to their best friend. They don't turn to some drug dealer. They don't turn to the judge in the Supreme Court. They don't go beg to President Donald Trump. They don't write Black Lives Matter down the streets of DC. They don't say, hands up, don't shoot, I can't breathe, in protest of George Floyd's death. They go and they pray to the Lord. Like Commanding General YAHANNA does. When he needs a question that's answered, when he's going through a difficult time, when Israel is suffering, Commanding General YAHANNA goes and prays to the Lord. Like Moses did, like Ezekiel did, like Jeremiah did, like Habakkuk did, like Nehemiah did, like Micah did, like our King Christ did.
Right.
Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 8. According to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even until this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods, so do they also unto thee.
Look at all the things they have done. Since I brought them out of Egypt, they disrespect me. They built a golden calf. They disobeyed me. They steal when I told them not to steal. They lie when I told them not to lie. They're committing adultery when I told them not to commit adultery. I had to open up the earth because Korah and the other Israelites wanted to rebel against Moses, who I chose to lead. And look what they're doing now. Still sinning, still serving other gods, still wanting to be like these disgusting heathens. They have forsaken me. They've taken me for granted because they want to go serve other gods. So you know what? Let them have what they want. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 9. Now therefore, hearken unto their voice. Howbeit, yet protest solemnly unto them, and shew them the manner of the king that shall reign over them.
So check it, Samuel. The Lord said to Samuel, go listen to them. However, by listening to them and giving them what they want, I want you to tell them what kind of king they're going to get. Because they don't want a king that I choose. They want a king that they choose. They want you to give them a king when you know that I am their king. So check it. Tell them this is how their king is going to treat them. The king that they choose, the king that they so desperately want, tell them this is how they're going to be treated. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 10. And when Samuel told the words of the Most High unto the people that asked of him a king.
And when Samuel went to go speak to the people and tell them the decision, keep going.
And he said,
what verse?
Verse 11, 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 11. And he said, this will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you.
This is how your king is going to be. This is how he will act. This is how he would think. This is how he's going to treat you. This is how he will be. Keep going.
He will take your sons and appoint them for himself.
He's going to take your sons and make them his, and tell them and make them and put them in positions that he wants them to do. He'll tell them what to do. Yes, I know you're their father. Yes, you're their mother. But as your king, he's going to tell them what they're going to do. Keep going.
For his chariots and to be his horsemen, and some shall run before his chariots.
And they're going to be his. They're going to be part of his army. They're going to be part of his transportation system. Whenever he wants to go to Starbucks, he's going to have your son take him to Starbucks. Chauffeur him around to Starbucks. He's going to have your son be his bodyguard, be his security team. He's going to have your son clean his cars, make sure they're in top shape, make sure that they have no scratches, make sure that they're always nice and clean and filled up with gas. He's going to decide what they're going to do. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 12. And he will appoint him captains over thousands and captains over 50s.
And he's going to make them leaders of his armies. Keep going.
And will set them to ear his ground and to reap his harvest.
And he's going to make them his farmers. He's going to make them cut his corn, gather his oranges, grow his vegetables. They're going to work for him and make sure that he's fed. Forget working on your farm that you have, that has been passed down to your family. He's going to take your sons and make them his farmers. They're going to be working on his farm, not your farm. Keep going.
And to make his instruments of war and instruments of his chariots.
And instead of making weapons to protect your land from invaders, he's going to make weapons for the king. So the king's palace and the king's house can be protected. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 13. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries and to be cooks and to be bakers.
And this king's gonna take your daughters and make them cooks. Make them be perfumers, which is what confectionaries are. People who deal with scents and making nice smelling things and perfumes and fragrances, and be bakers. He's gonna make them work for him. So when he wants that new special cologne, he's gonna have your daughter make it. When he wants to eat some nice T-bone steak, your daughter's gonna cook him that steak instead of your daughter cooking food for your family. Whenever he wants some upside down cake, your daughter will be making his upside down cake, and not at your house making you upside down cake. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 14. And he will take your fields and your vineyards and your olive yards, even the best of them.
What would your king do to you?
And he will take your fields.
Your what?
Your fields.
Your king will take your what?
Your fields.
And what else would your king take from you?
And your vineyards.
Your vineyards. What else will your king take from you?
And your olive yards.
Your king will take your fields from you. Your king will take your vineyards from you. Your king will take your olive yards from you. So when you're growing oranges and grapes and tomatoes and plums and pumpkins and bananas and mangoes and pineapples and cherries and tomatoes and corn and rice and beets and Brussels sprout and asparagus and carrots and radish and all these other things, your king is going to take that from you. You will no longer own your farm. You will no longer own your field. You will no longer own your orchard. You will own none of that. And even the best ones, even the part of your orange tree, the part of your orange field that grows the best and most juiciest oranges, he's going to take it from you. Even that part of your land where you get the best grapes to make the best wine, he's going to take from you. He's going to take the worst from you, and he's going to take the best from you. Keep going.
Even the best of them, and give them to his servants.
He's going to take it from you, your king who you want so desperately to rule over you like all these other nations have rulers and kings over them. This king that you want over you is going to take everything from you and do what with them?
And give them to his servants.
And give them to his servants. Give them to the people that roll with him. Give them to the people that are loyal to him, that are obedient to him, that he likes, that kiss his behind, that whose noses are always brown because they have it so far up his behind. He's going to give it to them. He's going to reward them when he takes it from you. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 15. And he will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards and give to his officers and to his servants.
And he will take 10% of everything you have. 10% of everything you grow, all your seeds that you get at the end of the year to make more, to grow your farm bigger. He's going to take that and give them to his officers. Give them to his warriors, to his security guard. Give it to his chauffeur. Give it to the people that are serving him. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 16. And he will take your manservants and your maidservants and your goodliest young men and your asses and put them to his work.
So the people that you employed in your business that serve you, your slaves, your servants, they're no longer yours anymore. They're now his. And he's going to do with them what he wants to be done. He's going to put them to work. Your sons, your daughters, they're no longer your sons and daughters. They no longer work for your house. They no longer try to build your family name, because now they're going to work and build the king's name. They're going to make the king wealthier. They're going to make the king have the best clothes. They're going to make, what you said? Come. They're going to make the king grow in wealth and might and stature, while you end up getting poorer and poorer. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 7. That was 17. Verse 17, Slocky. He will take the 10th of your sheep.
He will what?
He will take the 10th of your sheep.
He's going to take 10% of your sheep that you get every year. And he's not going to take the weak ones. He's going to take the best of the best. Abadja?
Not to mention, most I still got to get his terms, and that's not
exactly. So at the end of the year, when you're supposed to give your best of the best of the Lord, when you go pay your tithes, you're supposed to give the best of the Lord. After you give your 10%, after you give your first best to the Lord, the king wants your second best. So you get the third, you get the fourth, you get the fifth best. You got to give the first best of everything to the Lord. That's a commandment. Now the king that you so desperately wanted wants your second best. The one that you're going to rely on, like, listen, all right, this sheep is my strongest sheep, my best sheep. I'm going to sacrifice it and give it to the Lord. But I also know that this sheep right here, although it's not the best, it's the second best, I can look forward to having this sheep. Because next year, this sheep will produce my best. Not no more. Not now. Because your king is taking that second best to be his first best next year. You're stuck with the third. You're stuck with third place, basically. Keep going. Verse 17.
Verse 17. And ye shall be his servants.
And what?
And ye shall be his servants.
And you will be this king's servant. Because you wanted the king so badly, so desperately. Instead of being your own boss, instead of running your own business, instead of having your own farm, you're going to work for the king. You're going to work on the king's farm, which he took from you. You're no longer going to own your own business. Your businesses now belong to the king, and instead of you running it, you're just going to work in it. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 18. And ye shall cry out in that day.
And you shall what?
And ye shall cry out in that day.
And you're going to cry out because you know you're being abused. You're being taken advantage of. You're being robbed and raped. Keep going.
And ye shall cry out in that day because of your king, which ye shall have chosen you.
And what sucks is you chose this king. You wanted this king to rule over you. You wanted the king so badly. You thinking that things are going to be great and wonderful because you have a king. You chose the person that's going to be your ruler. And now you're crying because the person you chose betrayed you, treats you horrible, kicks you when puts you down and then kicks you when you're down, spits in your face, takes everything from you. Keep going.
And the Most High will not hear you in that day.
And the Lord's not going to hear your cries because the Lord gave you what you want. You wanted something so badly that you turned your back to the Lord. So the Lord gave you what you wanted, and He's not going to listen. He's going to have you suffer. So when you learn your lesson, you're going to learn that the Lord should have been enough for you. The Lord should have been your everything. That you should never again want a king to be over you. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 19. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel.
What?
Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel.
Even with Samuel telling them all this, the king that you want is going to do this to you. He's going to take this from you. He's going to take your sons. He's going to take your daughters. He's going to take your sons and have them be his warriors. He's going to take your daughters and have them be his cooks. He's going to take your farm. He's going to take your business. He's going to take the best of everything you have. And you're going to cry about it. I'm telling you that you are going to cry about it. And you're going to feel bad and you're going to cry for the Lord to stop this king for treating you so poorly. I'm telling you, this is going to happen. It's not me just BSing with you. I'm not just running my gums. I'm a prophet for a reason. I'm telling you what's going to happen. Read it again.
Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel.
But they didn't care. They're like, so, nah, whatever. We don't believe you. That's not going to happen. We don't care. We want a king. Keep going.
And they said, nay, but we will have a king over us.
They said, we don't care.
Right.
We want our king.
Right.
We want to be like these other nations. We want to have a king like white people. We want to have a king like Africans. We want to have a king like Arabs. We want to have a king and an emperor like the Asians. And we want a king so we can be like Genghis Khan. And we want to be mighty rulers. We want mighty rulers like the British and the French. We want presidents. We want to be able to vote for presidents like the Americans. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 20. That we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles.
And because we, like I just said, we want to be like all these other nations. We want to have a king to lead us and fight battles for us. I'll tell you what. Let's go back some. And let's see why George Floyd was murdered. We're going to find out why George Floyd was murdered. Go back to verse 11.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 11. And he said, this will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you.
This is how white people are going to rule over us in America. Keep going.
He will take your sons.
White people take our sons. They take our children from us. Ever heard of Child Protective Services? They take your children. They're allowed to do it. If white people who create and control this government think that you are not fit to lead your people, they're taking over. They will take them from you. Keep going.
And appoint them for himself.
And do what?
And appoint them for himself.
And they will tell, and white people will tell you what your children would do for them. They're going to put them in positions that they want them. You want your son to be a doctor. Nope. I want your son to be a soldier in my military. I want your son to be a soldier in my army. Keep going.
For his chariots and to be his horsemen. And some shall run before his chariots.
And I want your son to be my chauffeur for my Lamborghini. I want your son to drive me around in my Rolls Royce. I want your son to park my Lamborghini. I want your son to open my door when I come into my home on Park Avenue in Manhattan, where all the other white millionaires and billionaires live. I want your son to be my doorman and walk my dog. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 12. And he will appoint him captains over thousands and captains over fifties.
And your son will be a lieutenant in my army and die for me.
Right.
And your sons and daughters will be commanders and chiefs and captains and grunts and maggots and cadets and lieutenants and first petty officers in my Air Force and my Marines and my National Guard and my Navy, and they will die for me. Keep going.
And will set them to air his ground and to reap his harvest.
And I'm gonna make your Mexican children be my tomato planters and harvest my tomatoes and plant my oranges and pick my oranges and plant my corn and pick my corn. And that's what white people will do. We wanted a president so bad. We wanted the power to vote so bad. And this is what white people do to us. This is what white people do to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. This is what Africans do to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. This is what Asians do to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Abadia? Come, the water. Let's go down. No, actually, continue reading that.
And to make his instruments of war and instruments of his chariots.
AK-47s, AR-15s, Smith & Wesson, Glocks. I own those facilities. The white man owns those facilities. But I have your black, Hispanic, and Native American son making those guns for me. They don't own not one of them. They don't own not one factory, but they make my guns. They put the gunpowder, they press the gunpowder into my bullets that I sell. They make the weapons for me to go to war. They make weapons for me to give to them to go fight my wars. This is how white people treat black, Hispanic, and Native Americans here in the Americas. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 13. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries and to be cooks and to be bakers.
And he will take your daughters to cook his food, to work in McDonald's, to work in Burger King, to work behind the counter in Macy's where they sell Michael Kors perfumes and Sean John and Gucci colognes. Because many black, Hispanic, and Native American women are filled the counters in Macy's, in Nordstrom's, in JCPenney's, in Bloomingdale's, and Costco's, selling perfumes, cooking your food, trying to get you to buy the newest microwavable pizza. That's what they do. They make these oppressors, these devils, they make our daughters, they take our daughters from us to serve them. Keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 14. And he will take your fields and your vineyards and your olive yards, even the best of them.
What would he do?
He will take your fields and your vineyards and your olive yards.
Monsanto, the company Monsanto will do what?
Take your fields and your vineyards and your vineyards, Slaki, and your olive yards.
Because if Monsanto can prove that even one of your plants populated with their seeds because the farmer next door has Monsanto seed plants growing, they now own your farm because you have their property. You have their property, their GMO corn, their GMO apple seeds, their GMO cabbage and tomatoes and pumpkins growing in your farm, and you did not pay them for their intellectual property, for their genetically modified food. Therefore, Monsanto now takes your fields, your vineyards, your olive yards. And they were the best. They helped you make your money every single month. They fed your family every single year. Now they own them. White companies own your farm now. Monsanto is suing you in court to make you go bankrupt so you can give them your land now. Keep going.
Even the best of them, and give them to his servants.
And you know what they do? They'll give those lands to someone who agreed to work for Monsanto and sell and grow Monsanto's corn, Monsanto's vegetables, Monsanto's fruits. That's what they'll do. Drop down and go to verse 16.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 16. And he will take your manservants and your maidservants and your goodliest young men and your asses and put them to his work.
And white people here in America, the government, the president of the United States will take your slaves, your servants, the people that work for you, buy out your business, make you go bankrupt. You can't afford to pay rent on the property anymore, and they will put them to work for them. They'll take everything you own to work for them. Your employees are now their employees. Your servants are now their servants. Your slaves are now their slaves. Because that's how our oppressors are. That's what these other nations were. That's what the kings of these other races of people did. And this is what us being in captivity all across this earth. under the oppression of white people, African people, Asian people, Arab people. This is how we are treated. But we fought and marched in the civil rights era to vote. We wanted to be treated equally. We wanted to be able to sip water out of a white ceramic fountain. We wanted to put our dirty behind and crap in a toilet that white people crap in. Now read verse 18.
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 18. And ye shall cry out in that day.
And what are we doing right now?
And ye shall cry out in that day.
Because George Floyd was murdered, because we wanted to be loved by our oppressors. And what are Black, Hispanic, and Native American people doing right now?
And ye shall cry out in that day.
Breonna Taylor was murdered in her own home. She wanted to be a part of this American system.
Right.
She wanted to work for a white hospital. She wanted to get her degree from a white school. She wanted to live in a white neighborhood. She wanted to go shop at white supermarkets. She wanted to go buy white designer clothes. And what are we doing now?
And ye shall cry out in that day.
And Black, Hispanic, and Native American people are crying out all across the world. All across this earth, we cry out because our kings are mistreating us, are destroying us, are taking advantage of us, are murdering us, are robbing us. Our oppressors, who are our kings, who have been placed over us, we cry because they murder us in these streets. We cry because they take away our children from us. We cry because they bring drugs and weapons into our communities, which we use to inflict destruction on ourselves. Keep going.
And ye shall cry out in that day because of your king, which ye have chosen you.
And we chose Barack Obama both times. We chose Donald Trump. We chose Bill Clinton. We chose George W. Bush Jr. and Sr. We chose them. We wanted a movie star, Ronald Reagan.
Right.
We wanted that. We wanted Martin Luther King. We wanted Malcolm X. But we are crying right now. We're suffering right now. We're in despair. We're in mourning. They've been looting and protesting and rioting for almost 2 weeks now. Because George Floyd was murdered. Because he did not have a ruler. He did not have a leader. He did not have guidance.
Right.
Most importantly, he did not fear God, and he did not keep the Lord's statutes, laws, and commandments.
Right.
Right.
Our people suffer, and we cry because we don't have righteous rulership. But the answer is so simple. If you put away your pride, if you put away your ego, and you came and joined the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, you would have a ruler, you would have a leader who the Lord chose among your own people, who sleeps with his Bible, who sacrifices his sleep to make sure that his people, Black, Hispanic, and Native American people, are okay, have food in their fridge, their light bill is paid, their rent is paid.
Right.
You would have a leader to guide you. You would have a leader to help you when your son gets murdered. Your son won't get murdered because you have someone to walk after, to follow, someone to guide you to walk in the footsteps of Christ. And that's Commanding General YAHANNA and the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge.
That's right.
So that concludes our law class for today. I'm Priest and Officer Shagapan of the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. And for all the brothers in the class and watching online, Shalom, Yahweh B'Hashem Yeshai B'Rakatham, and to the sisters, Yahweh Shamar Alathan B'Hashem Yahushai. That concludes our class.
Wrap it up. Okay, I.S.U.P.K security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K, started out on 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York.